Good evening, everyone, and welcome to another of your Friday night spooky sessions with me, your host, Hedda Gold. How are you all this evening? Are you ready to be spooked and scared and shaken, if not stirred? No, it's not going to be a Bond movie tonight or even a rendition of, a Bond book by Ian Fleming. It's just me back with a couple of ghost stories and your very last episode of I Was Priest at the Vatican and we summoned a demon, and that is the video you should have had last Friday, so it's coming tonight. But as an addition, I'm going to bring you another story and then follow that up with the final ever chapter in Sarah Baker's story, and that wraps up that completely. And then next week we start with the restoration, and then that's some. If you thought there was action at this point, there's a lot more action to come, because the horrible man fallen Belial sort of comes back to bite us. Anyway, without further ado, I'd like to ask you to sit back and relax while I start with tonight's short ghost story, which is called Hailey, and I really do hope that you enjoy it. "1996 is a year that will always stay close to my heart. It was the year I started high school. My little brother was born and I got my first girlfriend. Yep, there wasn't really a downside about that year. There is one thing that for years I couldn't understand until recently I talked about it with my mum. It was October and the trees of the dense forest that sat just behind my backyard were turning a bright orange hue, and the crisp air of fall flowed throughout the sky. I'd just started the 4-year-long trek of high school, which I was excited and terrified about all at the same time. The feeling I had during the first few months of high school was that of awe from the drastic change of going from the spiritless and somewhat lazy attitude of my elementary school to the vast amount of school spirit and pride that was emanating from every corner of my high school. One chilly Sunday afternoon, I was walking home from my friend's house, the leaves crackling and crunching underneath my feet. I'd slept over at his place the night before, a night that had been passed up by staying up till 2 a.m, playing his newly released Super Nintendo and drinking a vast amount of Mountain Dew. As I walked down the side of the highway which passed by my house, I noticed the old park which sat on the other side of the highway. It was pretty decrepit, and the old park about everywhere, everything was down on its outs, from the slide to the monkey bars, which were covered in rust. Someone who was visiting my town would automatically think nothing of that park, but for many kids my age, we remember it as a symbol of our carefree childhood. It was a place where kids could play and have fun, despite the swings seeming to always have gum or bird droppings on them. Okay, enough nostalgia, back to my story. I noticed the park because there was an odd sound coming from it, almost like a little girl crying. I ended up shrugging it off, as I had a crap ton of homework to do, and it was stacking up on my plate. The next day I'd just gotten off the bus from school, and I was exhausted. I walked for a good 5 minutes with my girlfriend Jane before she had to go to her house, which left me walking home by myself. I usually walked home by myself, but I enjoyed the time because I got to think about things that interested me. I'd often think about my strategy on how I would tackle that night's homework, or how much I hated my French teacher, Mr. Sampson. Ugh. This time, though, it was different. As soon as Jane left for her house, my thoughts were interrupted by the same sound I'd heard the day before. It got increasingly louder until I walked to the front of the park I'd mentioned earlier. Feeling worried and frankly annoyed by the moans of sorrow coming from the park, I decided to walk over to where the sound was coming from. And as I arrived at the park, a small voice seemed to come at me from nowhere. "Can you help me, mister? I know I shouldn't talk to strangers, but I'm lost. I can't find my mummy." I turned around to see a little girl about the age of 5, sitting on one of the old park benches, tears streaming down her cheek. I felt a wave of guilt hit me for not checking here when I heard her cries the day before. I could barely tell what she was saying due to her constant sniffling in between words. "Calm down," I spoke softly to the little girl. "I'm sure I can help you. Tell me what happened." The fragile girl seemed tall for her age, and she had long, silky blonde hair, which seemed to stream down her back like a river. Her voice seemed soft and depressing. She explained to me that she didn't know how, but 2 nights earlier, she'd woken up in the park and couldn't figure out her way home. I asked her what her name was, and she told me that it was Hailey. Well, we had a good conversation for a good 10 minutes. So I told her that I would go home and phone the police so they could finally return her to her parents. So I went home, phoned the police about a missing child. Strange thing is, they had no record of a missing kid named Hailey. I went out to talk with the poor kid some more, but when I got to the park, she'd vanished. After days of worrying for her, nothing came up. I rang the police and again, no new information. Which brings us to the present day. A few days ago, I went to my parents' house for dinner, and I decided I'd finally bring up the topic with my parents. It had been bugging me lately, so after a huge dinner that only French-Canadian families can offer, I sat down with my mum after my dad fell asleep. I told her about my experience with Hailey, and after I gave my short tale that I've just told you, my mum showed me a picture, her eyes welling up with tears. It was a picture of a young girl with freckles and long blonde hair. Mum told me the picture was of my older sister, who died before I was born, and before we moved houses to the one that I had lived in. My mum said that she was taken from her room at night, and her body was found decomposing on the old park bench in the park, which is now demolished. The thing that really gets me is that my older sister's name was Hailey. What do we think of that? Could you see that one coming? Was it obvious? Or did you not guess? Did it send a shiver down your back? Or was it just predictable? Let me know what you thought about it in the comments, please, because I'd like to know. Okay, so I'm now going to read to you your very final episode of I Made a Deal. No, it's not. I was a priest at the Vatican. I'll get this right yet. I was a priest at the Vatican, and we summoned a demon. And as you remember, 2 weeks ago now, that Asmodai appeared at the end of that episode and said these 4 words to Sarah: "You have failed me." So, shall we pick up from where we left off and find out what happens now to Sarah and Father Edward Thomas? Because now they're at Asmodai's mercy. So I hope you're still sitting back and relaxing, because here it comes. Sarah, shaking, falls to one knee, bowing her head. "Master, forgive me." "Forgive?" His voice vibrates both of our bodies as if we're standing near a speaker at a concert. Though he's not shouting or even raising his voice, it seems. I fall to the ground in shock, in awe, and in terror. "You dare to ask your master forgiveness for your failures, wench?" Sarah whimpers. "Please, Master Asmodai." My eyes go wide. This is not even the king of demons. This is only a prince. There are 7 terrors like this one here. 7 more horrors like this fallen before me. This is a single fallen angel. I think back to the caring and kind eyes of Timothy, his beautiful silvery wings, and compare them to the hulking mass of horror standing there before me. My body shakes, and despite myself, I can't stop as tears well up in my eyes. A pair of massive gauntlets raises up to the central helm, lifting it up off his shoulders. As he does this, each head on Asmodai's shoulders follow, and then fix their gaze on Sarah. His face is that of a man, his head shaved bald, his face covered in coarse black stubble, his eyebrows matching. Under his brow, I see his eyes, not soulless, but far worse. His eyes are nothing but blackness, with burning green irises, swirling in a storm of rage and anger. The Prince of Wrath. His eyes an echo of the vengeance of men, of hate, of seething anger. Within his eyes, I can sense the vengeance I once wished upon Father Damascus. There is only the folly of rage in his eyes, the essence of hatred. "Oh dear, sweet Sarah." His voice continues to shake the ground I'm laid upon. "You are so young, still so very human." One gauntlet moves to her chin, tilting it up high, forcing her to her hooves. "It is why I favour you, for in you, somehow, you still have hope to break." Sarah is now at the tips of her hooves. She is shaken, until to my shock, he pulls her lips to his own, leaning down and kissing her with passion. Sarah's eyes shut as I watch her skin glow green, as his corruption seeps into her. While a kiss from a succubus renders most men weaker at death's door, it seems Asmodai has the power to spare. I watch as his hand caresses her thigh. She moans into the kiss, his hand leading up her back and to her cheek. The hand that had guided her chin moves to the other side of her cheek. Asmodai breaks the sweet kiss, and he speaks once more. "I knew you would fail." His voice seems calm, controlled, shaking the ground and air less. I hoped Demunda would have summoned anyone but you. You are nothing more than my sex toy. Something for me to fuck when I am weary of rending flesh. I had hoped that hapless summoner would have called Ubiel, or even Cascus, that woeful simpleton, would have opened the gate faster than you. As he sighs, a putrid breath rushing over me. But alas, the fool reached too high. He was not powerful enough to draw me, so only drew you, the one who leeches off my grandeur. Sarah sighs softly. I am so sorry, Master. She lays her head against his right hand, nuzzling it. I'll make it up to you. I promise to please you in every way. Yes, I had desired that maybe, he continues, ignoring her. In the least, you would put yourself to the task. But nay, his gauntlets removed to our horns. You tarried. After he says these words, his hands make a quick motion, snapping both of Sarah's horns clean off her head. As blood rushes out of both of her shattered horns, Sarah screams in pain, both of her hands rushing to stop the bleeding but achieving little. Asmodai drops the horns in his hands unceremoniously to the ground, placing his massive hands on her shoulders. That was for asking me for forgiveness. His cold and calm voice shaking the air once more, rising in volume. One hand twists Sarah's right shoulder, twisting it further and further. Asmodai makes the limits of her joints clear, as Sarah shakes her head, panicking. No, 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 Master, please. She blinks as blood blinds one of her eyes. I hear a snap as Asmodai dislocates her arm from her shoulder. Sarah screams, a free hand clawing at his unyielding gauntlet in desperation. Master, please, mercy, I beg your mercy. Mercy? Asmodai's voice rumbles through the air and quakes the ground. It fills the air with shockwave of his voice, and my heart shudders in my chest. You dare beg me, Asmodai, Lord of Wrath, mercy? With a motion that can be best described as a flick of his wrist, Sarah's arm sails off her body and clatters to the ground, twitching and writhing within its armour. Sarah screams even louder than before, her free arm grasping at her bleeding and exposed stump. Asmodai releases her, allowing her to fall to her knees. Tears burn off Sarah's face as blood gushes from her shoulder. No more, no more. Asmodai grabs a hold of her left wing from behind. Sarah wails. No, no, no. This is for your idleness. He leans down to whisper in her ear, though it is far from a whisper. Reflect on this pain. His voice booms as he rips her left wing off, casting it aside, armour and flesh all. Sarah falls forward now, screaming in abject pain. Her free arm drags her body towards me. Father, she whimpers, save me. Even more enraged now than he was before, Asmodai grabs Sarah by the lock of each hoof, one in each either hand, and lifts her off the ground with ease, spreading her legs apart. No, Master, no. Sarah's in hysterics. This is for your failure. And I can hear a creaking, snapping noise as he stretches Sarah's legs apart, leaving her spread eagle in midair. Sarah writhes and screams, beating at his hands with her left arm, her right wing flapping as blood spurts from her open wounds. Another crack, and Sarah can only grab at her hips, shrieking. Asmodai, now for the first time, glances at me. Place your bets, papist. How will she breach? Left or right? I only shake my head in disbelief, too horrified to look away. Make a wish. He gave a devilish grin. Sarah releases a blood-curdling yowl that rips our vocal cords to pieces. A horrific sound of screeching broken notes and gurgling echoes out as our left leg splits from our body. A cloud of blood and sinew fills the air. Our body swings to the right, pivoting in Asmodai's gauntlet. Sarah wheezes and gasps, blood gushing from our wounds, yet shock never taking our consciousness. Asmodai unceremoniously drops Sarah to the floor, her head landing with a sickening snap as our neck breaks and our body flops to the ground. Next, he drops her dismembered leg on top of her. Despite the broken body, Sarah writhes and twitches in pain, aware of every moment of her suffering. Asmodai reaches for one of many swords on his waist and draws a broad black blade. Enough! I shout, finding my voice. Sarah turns to face me, blood dripping across her brow, her body coughing and wheezing as she attempts to speak. Her eyes go wide and her face contorts in a silent scream as Asmodai shoves his drawn blade through the centre of her chest. Wait for me here, whore, while I converse with thy uninvited transient. He leaves Sarah behind, impaled, gasping and wheezing for air enough to scream, her vocal cords too taxed to continue. My master will undertake a far worse fate for her, papist, I assure you. In a panic, I scramble to my feet. Though I do not have my Bible, I close my eyes. O Heavenly Father, hear my prayer, even though I walk through the darkest valley. Asmodai finishes my prayer for me, grabbed me by the throat with one hand, lifting me to meet his eyes. I will fear no evil, for you are with me. Your rod and your staff, they comfort me. Even as he says the words of the Lord, they sound wrong and tainted. Oh, poor fool. He hears you, he does. He sees you, he does. His grip tightens against my throat. But he cannot take action here. He can only watch you suffer. That, papist, is the reason for your torment. To make his favoured children suffer before his watchful eye. So he can bear witness, so he can weep, so he can moan helplessly as his children suffer, as his children betray him and serve our Lord. Asmodai's heavy footfalls carry me to the edge of the cliff, making me face the blade of pride in the distance. Your church desires to know our grand designs, yes? What musings the denizens of hell here have for your verdant speck among the vast universe? I'm brought face to face with the fallen, swirling dark eyes. His breath stinks of sulphur and blood. I shall grant your wish, papist, so pay heed to what I reveal. I squirm as we are flying in the air, his massive wings unfurled, leaving twin clouds of soot behind them. Again I cannot help contrast the silvery wings of Timothy. I long to be near him, to experience the comfort I felt being with one of God's angels, to be back in God's grace. I recall when Timothy saved my life, his body sacrificed to save mine. A deep laugh erupts from Asmodee's chest. Sodomite. Horror washes over me as I realise he is in my mind. We land in a field of horrible demons and monsters. All of them stop as Asmodee lands. Even the most horrible of horrors sinks back from his presence. My legions, assemble! His voice is like that of an erupting volcano and echoes through the caverns and plains like a mighty blast. The demons, in fear, all line up before us. Hundreds of thousands, each more grotesque than the last, all standing at attention. Asmodee rises into the air, showing me the vastness of his forces. Countless legions of this size or greater await the gates opening. Even now, the fallen prophet and the child of Lucifer lay waste to the seal, and soon the gates will be open. We will wash over our Father's creation like a flood, destroying all life, burning it down to even the most insignificant of Father's creatures. He takes a breath. We will burn it all. His infinite army of nightmare repeats. We will burn all. None shall live, Asmodee shouts. His army in unison shout. None shall live. Asmodee faces me once more, grinning. Look on my works, ye mighty, in despair. Another figure approaches from the blade of pride. A cloud of yellow and black smoke appears before me. My eyes go wide as another pair of blackened wings soon unfurls before me. They are clad in similar rusted and blackened chainmail. The feathers seem more pristine but still dirtied with soot. Of a similar stature to Asmodee is a massive 9-foot tall angel, but this one far different. His build is athletic, not hulking, his chest bare. A pair of powerful pectorals and biceps rest underneath a near-perfect and hairless skin. Across his middle, a tight leather-like armour wraps around as if it were a cummerbund. He wears a tarnished silvery gorget around his neck, while black leather braces adorn his forearms. His legs have a similar tarnished silver plate covering them, the theme matching down to his greaves and sabatons. As I hate to admit, his face is handsome, his eyes black with swirls of yellow, which seem to tempt and beguile. His hair is long and black, with small and sharp goatee. Belial, Asmodee says with annoyance. I have no time for you. Belial speaks with a wheezing voice. Oh, brother Asmodee, it's not I who requests you. He grins a set of perfect white teeth as he glances toward the blade of pride. Besides, the sodomites are mine. You know this. I already sold you the succubus Sarah. He seems delighted as he regards me. Oh my, a priest, another kitty fiddler. Asmodee's gaze penetrates me as I struggle. Victim, not a perpetrator. Shame. His soul is too clean for you, Belial. He must disappoint you. Belial laughs, causing many other demons to still retreat in fear. Well then, papist, allow me to introduce myself. I am Belial, Lord of Flesh and... He stops, moving towards me, sniffing me. Oh, you are friends with that ancestor of Enoch. His stink is all over you. His eyes swirl, and the yellow smoke seems to bubble in anger. Asmodee's smile grows sly. Oh, brother, the angel who taught a mere mortal man how to cast you out? Belial spits as he grabs at Asmodee's chest plate, the shock of the two colliding, knocking me out of Asmodee's grasp and sending the majority of the demons to the ground. Hold your tongue, brother, lest I rip it from your throat. His voice hissed through the air, blasting shockwaves across the plains. Asmodee's voice quakes the earth, and the lakes of fire burst forth with geysers of lava. I would enjoy seeing you try, Belial. You may be the master's right hand, but when an angel needs rending, I am the one he calls. Belial now grins. Unless that call is to open the gates, it seems. The demons now snicker and laugh. Asmodai grabs a blade from his left and then from his right side and marches towards his armies. Before they can even clamber to their feet, his blades have somehow sliced through the first 3 rows. Arms, horns, legs and torsos go flying as the wailing screams of hundreds stain my ears. The laughter ceases. I'll remind you that succubus is your creation, Belial. Asmodee's voice rumbles. As are most pleasures of the flesh here, he grins as he fixes his gaze on me. Like your father Damascus. Oh, Father Thomas, you must miss him. Asmodee's eyes also travel over me. Brother, is this a contest? Yes. Belial forces his hand forward, and out of a black mist comes a sickening slopping sound. A burst of bodily fluids hits the ground and evaporates in a sickening stream as a man of the cloth falls onto the ground. He vomits the putrid contents of his stomach and looks up at me, heaving and struggling to keep breath in his body. Edward? Is that you? My eyes go wide as the figure of Father Damascus is kneeling before me. The man had died years ago, and yet here he was before me. He appeared physically younger than he had when I last saw him. Father Damascus smiles, his crooked teeth shining. So you're here too? He laughs, shaking his head. See, Edward, like I said, the temptation. It is too great for a man of the cloth. My eyes fix on him as he blasphemes before me. Asmodee's voice echoes in my mind. My eyes look to his swerving pools of emerald and onyx. Such a horrid man. He taints the church, his station. Asmodee offers me a blade. And what he did to you, to a boy so innocent, cast out into his waiting arms. I can only see his eyes full of hate, full of anger. The anger flows into me. The hatred fills my heart. Retribution. The blade's handle is placed into my hand by Asmodee. His actions demand retribution. My gaze turns toward Father Damascus. Squeezing the hilt of the blade, a surge of strength runs through my spirit. Just as the power surges through my arm, I release the blade. My eyes close and I calm myself. Prayer fills my mind, and I recall my words years ago after Father Damascus' passing. No, I have already forgiven him. The demons near me hiss and growl in disapproval. Belial now pressed himself against me, his wheezing voice in my ear. Of course you did. You enjoyed it, didn't you? So young you were then, too young to know what to do. Had it happened now, however, his hand roams over my chest. What pleasures you experience? Oh, the pleasures God has made for your body. To deny them is blasphemy, is it not? My eyes shut tight as to resist what Belial was trying to offer, pushing the thoughts out of my mind. Why not return the favour, Father Thomas? Why not? He never finished you off. So rude. What a poor sexual bedfellow, as to finish first and not to offer to aid your own desire. Get thee behind me, devil! I shout. Belial presses his hips against mine from behind, and he hisses into my ear. Is that an invitation, papist? Piercing through the air, a bluish light surrounds me. Belial steps back in surprise. I rise into the air, but Asmodee's hands grabs my robes. He shoves his hand into my chest, ribs breaking and my sternum cracks as his hand grips my heart. Is this weakness all of the angel Timothy? Is this what he offers? I can feel how this drains him, how much he exerts. He laughs, the ground rumbling again. All I need to do is hold you, but a minute and it will do him in. Something pulls me hard upward, but Asmodee's grip on my heart causes me to remain, and the pain of it causes my entire body to convulse. His face is now nose to nose with mine. He is weak. A voice blares like trumpets from on high, and I look to the source. A bright light high at the top of the blade of pride obscures my ability to see. Let him go, Asmodee. Enough pointless games. Asmodee's gaze remains on me as I feel his grip loosen. I gasp. Who is that? The answer, Asmodee begins, bringing his face to mine. To the question, can God make a stone so heavy, even he cannot lift it? The answer is, Asmodee smiles, he did. He releases me in that instant. My body soars through the air, the pain lingering in my chest from his gauntlet as I hit the ceiling and a bright white light floods my vision. I bolt upright screaming, covered in a cold sweat, clutching my chest. My eyes dart around me as I survey my surroundings. I see Sister Fatima to my right, Jorge to my left, and Timothy next to him. Timothy looks exhausted, his hands on my shoulders, his eyes looking weary. Father, are you all right? Accessing my hands and my chest, I see no soot, no horrible wound in my chest. But as I blink my eyes, I see the sight of Sarah, our body broken and our hand outstretched. Father, save me, I hear her cry. Overwhelmed, tears flow from my eyes. I reach out and I embrace Timothy. Timothy holds me as I sob on his shoulder. You're safe, Father, Timothy says. You're safe. My body shakes as the shock of my ordeal crashes down over me, the shaking only subsiding when I feel Timothy's wings wrapped around me. While my bawling subsides, I explain what I saw to Timothy. I spare no details. Sister Fatima looks away from me and explains. She showed her humanity when we were on the plane. She kept looking out of the window of the plane. She had never flown before, not on earth anyway. Her soul is so lost. I pray for her. With a solemn nod, I agree. I will as well. If nothing else, it is all I can do to save her. I close my eyes and still cannot rid myself of the image that will haunt my nightmares from years to come. Father Hammond hands Timothy a glass of water as he greets us all, though concern stains his face. Father Hammond, I smile to him as he gives me a cloth. Where are we? The Vatican, Father Thomas, he states. I'm relieved, looking around the room. What happened? Timothy takes a deep breath. I held on to you, but somehow the succubus pulled your soul down with her. I spent hours trying to pull you out, among other things. Jorge excuses himself from the room. It seems he's answering a phone call. Father Hammond explains. You were comatose for hours. Nodding, I smile. Well, despite it all, we stopped her. We prevented the gates opening. Despite my words of triumph, I notice no one appears pleased or joyous. What's wrong? Timothy is the first to break the silence. When I came to get you, they'd already arrived. I got us out of there as soon as I could. What happened? I ask again. They attacked. Timothy bemoans. Before I can complete my sentence, a sound of shirking audio feedback reverberates through the building. The TV in the corner flickers to life of its own accord. On the screen is a man sitting against a throne-like seat in what looks like a battleship's bridge. He wears a uniform I've never seen of any country, his right hand clad in a golden clawed leather glove. His face looks like that of a man in his early 60s, with greying black hair and clean-shaven face. What strikes me is his icy blue eyes I've seen before. Turning to Timothy, I see his face is that of anger, but I see the same eyes in him. Ye have been judged and found wanting, the man on the TV begins. Citizens of terror, your day of judgment has arrived. As he prattled on his judgment and humanity's failings, another figure moved into the frame and sat next to him on a similarly sized seat. Her body clad in armour that looked like stone, massive white feathery wings closed behind her back. White hair is tied in a long braid on her left and a buzz cut on her right. She leans back, and it's clear that she's a strong, powerful, gigantic woman. Even sitting, it is clear she's larger than the man. Jorge explains as he enters the room. Timothy's mother is a descendant of Enoch, but his father is, well, the fallen prophet, Timothy finishes. He used to be named Grigory, but ever since he and Ragnar, the woman next to him, killed everyone inside the Guardian Temple, he's gone by. The man on the screen continues. Salvation is yours. You need only swear fealty to your new saviour, Zithero. The woman's voice chimes in an alto voice and one that doesn't carry many hints of femininity. Or be destroyed by Ragnar. It's your choice. The television turns off. Timothy is silent, as hope seems to have left his face. I barely pulled you out of hell, barely even touched that succubus. I stand looking to Timothy. You don't have to face all this evil alone. Sister Fatima chimes in, to my surprise. I will help you, Timothy. Father Hammond looks to us both surprised. Sister Fatima, how could you hate him? There is a chapel within that temple Timothy showed me. Someone needs to tend to it, she explains. A smile crosses my face. Then I will help you, Father Hammond says in shock. But Father Thomas, the church tried to summon a demon which nearly destroyed everything God made. I'll no longer put my faith in the church, Father Hammond. My faith is with God. I glanced at Timothy and his angels. Timothy smiles. I appreciate it. I'm going to need all the help I can get. Jorge looks to be beaming as if waiting his turn to speak. After a moment of silence, he declares, Well, that's good because your sisters are in the temple waiting for you. Timothy looks to Jorge in shock. What? Both? Jorge clears his throat. Well, 3 of them? Your mother had a 3rd child. And I'm afraid that's where we are now. I'll never get the memories of hell itself out of my mind, that is certain. Nor will I forget the folly of the church. I write this last entry just before embarking on this journey with Timothy, hoping we can stop Ziphiel and Ragnar from opening the gate and destroying all creation. Maintain your faith, trust in God. This is not the end, not yet. Not as long as men have the will to stand up to evil and faith in God above. If this is the end, however, then God bless and Godspeed to you all. And that is the end of I Was a Priest in the Vatican and We Summoned a Demon. So what did you think of your final episode? Did you enjoy it? Is it action-packed enough for you? Well, it's still not quite the end of what happened with Sarah, because in the second video I'm going to make for you tonight, you're going to find out what finally happened to her. So there's still more for you to find out yet. Well, my friends, it's been a long episode for you tonight. And I really do hope that you've enjoyed both your stories. I want to thank you very much for being with me. And thank you for watching. And I just love the fact that some of you are here with me while I read the stories to you. And I know I've enjoyed them tonight. I just hope you've enjoyed them as much as I have. Anyway, please let me know what you think of them in the comments. And I'm going to have a drink and then I'm going to start with the second one. So you're going to be inundated with videos from me today. No doubt I'll be spinning and vibrating by tomorrow. But never mind, it's all worth it. It's what I want to do. So anyway, I'm going to say that I love you because I do. And I'm going to ask you to take care of yourselves and look after yourselves. And, just keep on the right side of everything. Because we've come this far. Okay? So, for the moment, I'm going to wish you adieu. And not quite good night. But I will say, I will see you very soon. See you in a bit. Bye for now.